I welcome Pranav Gupta for this podcast. This is a kind of a podcast where I'm trying to demystify what's that actual engineering life that differs from your actual academia. Many people are
Mhm.
wondering how, should I really get inside industry? Should I get inside the world of academia? Or what is it all about? I think it can never be demystified until and unless we approach somebody who is in academia for quite a while. And I think Pranav Gupta is going to be an amazing guest in my podcast because we have talked a little bit apart from the podcasting. I had asked him for the opportunity which I can find in the Cornell and many things like that. He guided me. He saw my profile. He just told me, okay, you might have to approach these people. I'm not encouraging you guys to do this every time because I had my profile. Of course, I knew what should be done. If you don't have a profile, don't worry about it. Take some time, do your homework, and then go back to the stage where you are searching for your opportunity. I think I'm very thankful to have Pranav Gupta. Of course, we have the time difference, but we just got our slots done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
yeah, Pranav, it's an honor, bro. It's an honor. It's an honor. Like, Pranav, let's just start with your undergraduate journey. People are still
Sure.
wondering what should be my undergraduate looking like. To many people say there are people who say like 100 days, 100 certificates.
Interesting.
And I'm sick and tired of seeing certificates because myself, I've been doing courses since my first year of college.
Mhm.
I've not crossed more than 52 certificates, bro, including Udemy, Coursera, anywhere you take. I've not crossed more than 52 certificates. And people are coming out with 100 days, 100 certificates. Let's just give them our view on which our journey started as an undergraduate student. What was your journey as an undergraduate student?
Sure. So definitely, I would say maybe I predated the certificate era. So I think in my time, yeah, for me also. I mean, you're touching on some very important points. I think I like to call it informational poverty because I mean, all of us are very capable, right? I mean, India is a big country. Like there are so many talented people out there, but and elsewhere as well. Like depending on the audience of the podcast. The thing is, yeah, we need to know about opportunities. So coming back to your question, yeah, for me it was just this newspaper advertisement that I saw. I think my father saw it when I was in my 12th standard, and he said, "Well, IISc is starting its new undergraduate program." And the funny thing is that I I'm the first student who registered for the IISc undergraduate program because my mother woke me up early in the morning when we reached Bangalore. She said, "Okay, you need to register. I mean, right now, like at 6 a.m." So I was the first one who reached at the registration office, and so I made history as the first IISc undergraduate student. I mean, they had a different undergraduate program earlier. It was like BSc plus B, but this was the first like post UG, post U. I mean, post 12th standard undergraduate program. Like this was the first time. So I did make history, and for me, like, do you want me to talk more about the certifications and like how I navigated my undergraduate journey? Like, do you want me to focus on certain aspects?
You can really focus on certain aspects that really built you as an undergraduate student. What really motivated you for the PhD? You can start with a flow as you feel, as you wish. You can just start with a flow.
Sure, sure. So, and yeah, feel free to interrupt me in case you want to, change the course of the conversation. So, yeah, starting, I think definitely I was quite interested in science, and it was weird. I think in my time, I mean, I did score like I was not in the top 100 of IIT JEE, but still, let's say, I mean, I was like my all India rank was around 3,000, and so still I would have gotten like some of the IITs, right? And so for me, yeah, it was IITs versus IISc to some extent, right? I mean, we have to decide. And I was sure that I mean, when I was in my 12th standard, I knew that I wanted to understand the natural sciences better. And what I saw with a lot of IITs and most engineering colleges is that they tend to jump straight into the applied part. And I said, well, I want to be in a place where I can understand the fundamentals better, and then we'll see what to do after, like the 4 years at IISc. So that was the attitude I had, and that's how I landed in IISc. And I think it's really amazing. I mean, the environment in IISc, you get to learn from and work with professors and PhD students who are really at the cutting edge. And it's quite different. It's unique. And like I, IISc is really a unique institution in that regard. So from my first year itself, I mean, we took classes definitely, and they were quite rigorous. At the same time, I also got to, just have late night walks within campus and just barge into random research labs. So that was quite exciting because, I mean, IISc typically people are night owls. So people are working very hard and like late into the night. So I would just go and I would just start asking them about their research, and it would be nice because they would also explain their research in great detail. Like one person, I mean, this was in my first month as an undergraduate. We went to this mechanical engineer's lab, and his friend started giving me his like qualifying examination presentation. He was a PhD student, and he said, "Okay, you are my guinea pigs. I'll practice my mock presentation on you." And that benefited us. Like we were like 5 6 students, pulling off an all-nighter like 2 a.m. in the morning, and we were just listening, and we had to go to class the next day 8 a.m. So it was nice. Like always 24/7 you could meet people, learn about their research. So I kept doing that, and I also got some research experience. And yeah, I think I was let me I did take some notes as well. So yeah, again, I mean, going forward, there was this guy called Shrikant Pai in IISc, and I mean, he was another person who really like enthused me about math and physics, which are the subjects I took forward. So I mean, you could start talking to him after dinner, like after you went to the mess, and 9 or 10 p.m. you would start talking with him, and you won't realize when it's 4 a.m. So yeah, 5 6 hours you just stand and keep talking with this guy, and he just has so much knowledge, and you have such intense discussions, right, about academics, about academia. And I think those are more important than the actual concepts you study, because you have to prepare yourself mentally if you are going down the academic path. Same for industry, right? So I think that was how my undergraduate journey was. I mean, I also got an opportunity to go on an exchange program for 1 summer to Brandeis University, like in the United States. And so that was a good experience. I got to learn about the, I mean, the American culture, right? Like the American academic culture. And so that was interesting. So I think around that time, maybe second or third year of my time at ISC, I decided, okay, I think I should go to United States for further education. I mean, that was trendy. That was one reason. The other reason, I think one has to widen one's perspective, right? I think if I stayed in ISC for a PhD, I would not have got that wider perspective. So I think that's how I said, okay, I'm applying to US universities for PhDs. And I applied to 14 US universities. So I really like I took up that task and just went on with it, right? I mean, I used all my savings. And so yeah, and I mean, it's amazing. ISC is an amazing place, like especially the labs that we get to do. They have spent crores and crores of rupees to build really awesome instructional labs for UG students. And I mean, I did experiments that even people at MIT or, like some of these top US universities, their undergrads also don't get to do. We had such a nice and rigorous curriculum. So I think all of those things really add up and give you a very nice educational experience if you go to ILC.
Yeah, does this tag really matter? Like the prestigious institution tag, does it really matter today? Because more of research, when we look at, like, when we think of people who are coming from different universities, right, that tag will not matter until, as long as you have really worked hard. That's what I've seen in many researchers these days. I've
Yes,
seen
yes.
people from Myla. I've also seen people from different institutions like NASA, European Space
Mhm.
Agency. They don't mind whether you're from the greatest of the greatest. Of course, there are some exceptions where people tend to take that into consideration, but there are people like most of them they don't consider. Do you really think so? This tag of prestigious institution really matter tomorrow?
So it doesn't, right? In the long run, it absolutely doesn't. And I mean, yeah, I like we could keep talking about examples all day, but I think I'll tell you what is good about these tags and maybe what is bad about these tags. So the good thing about these tags, right? I mean, specifically, it's hard to gauge, right? I mean, I think you have to collect a lot of statistics, and I don't want to be very anecdotal, right? I think you have to look into the numbers and look at actual statistical studies that maybe go into this. Maybe you could post some links there. And so yeah, in terms of advantages, the first thing is that I think it helps you when you are navigating different career options, right? That tag, actually, again, this analogy is my own analogy and it might be wrong. So, but I think it's more like, right, one of these golden tickets at an arcade game, right? I mean, you're at a carnival and you want to go on to different rides, and sometimes this just gets your foot in the door. Whether you will have a good time at the ride, whether you will succeed, that depends on how hard you work and how you really manage everything. But sometimes just getting that foot in the door is important, and I think there is where the tag matters. The other advantage is that there are, I mean, every like now science engineering is a big enterprise, right? That was not true like maybe 50 years ago or 60 years ago. I mean, it's a much bigger enterprise, and that means there are a lot of people doing a lot of good work. But still, sometimes in these institutions, in these elite institutions, right, you find some very unique kind of people, and they're quite unique. I mean, they they might be in the Forbes 30 under 30 list, or they might win a Nobel Prize and so on. And I'm not saying these are the only things that matter in life. I mean, no way, right? I mean, these are labels other people give you, like an award and so on. I think what matters is how much you enjoy your work and what impact you make. So, but still you come across these really, unique people, and like Shrikant, right? I mean, and I think, would I have found Shrikant at a different undergraduate institution in India, which is not like as elite as a IISc? I'm not sure. Maybe yes, maybe no. But the likelihood of finding such a person at IISc is higher. That's what I feel, right? I mean, and for me, for my personal experience, that is important because I like to learn from people around me. That's my style. But for a lot of people, they are very driven. Like, I mean, they know what they want to do, they have set targets, and for them it doesn't matter. So these are the advantages. The disadvantages, I have not seen this because I think, I mean, the problems we work on in science and engineering are so hard that already you become very humble. So I don't see this problem of elitism really in like elite Indian or elite US institutions. Like, I mean, they show this in movies, but I don't think it exists because we are also humbled, right, by the very complexity of what we are working on. In terms of disadvantages, maybe one thing like this, I mean, I don't think elitism is really a problem. Maybe I think you might end up in some kind of a
Imposter syndrome.
comfort zone. Com-
Yeah.
uh, impo- Imposter syndrome is, yeah, that is also one very, that's a big problem. I mean, it's true. Like, I think it must be true in many institutions, not just
Yeah.
like the elite institutions, right? That is one problem. The other thing is you typically go there, and many a time when you like, just the fact that you have been able to reach this institution, right, means you have been through some very unusual circumstances. Like, you have to really be at that edge, right? I mean, like that every question on IIT or right, I mean, you have to have really pushed yourself to the edge. And I'm not saying people at other institutions have not pushed themselves to the edge, but I've seen that at least in the institutions I have been in, and sometimes I also feel this personally, is that you reach there and then you feel directionless. And I think imposter syndrome does come in there. That is, you reach there and then suddenly you see this vast enterprise, right? Like all this research money pouring in, all these startups being created, and all these, like Nobel laureates coming to speak and all that, and millionaires donating entire buildings. Like in the case of US, that's very common. Millionaires donate entire buildings, and their grandkids go for free to Cornell. but yeah, that's a US specific thing. So I think you sometimes I used to feel that, like, maybe, and again, I don't have data, right? Like, I have been to two institutions that are like considered elite, and I don't think I am elite because I went to these institutions, but still I think, yeah, you enter here and it's a vast sea and you might feel a little lost. So that's the other thing. And in terms of disadvantages, yeah, I think sometimes we, like in machine learning parlance, right, we overfit. I mean, you are using a few features and you are not seeing, like, I mean, I'm sure most people are very well prepared mentally. They know which advisors they want to work with, what they want to do. But sometimes you overfit and you say, okay, like, I think the name is enough and I will figure out a way. And that works mostly, but sometimes it might not work. I think you have to balance between elite institution status and what you really want to do. So yeah, so a balance is important.
Yeah, that's true, because many people say that okay, 12th के बाद क्या जिंदगी में क्या कर लेंगे हम, ले जेई में क्या उखाड़ लेंगे हम. It's all about pure souls that you are going to meet. These are the people who have kept actual life which is equivalent to your age for research. Like, I'm 22 years old now, almost 22 years old now, and there are people like 30 years in the research for quite a while. So respecting them, I think probably when you surpass all these kinds of things, right, people are going to meet such kind of people, and people are mindsets are going to get wild in such a way that our next mindset has to be meeting these kind of people. you know
Yeah,
Even for my podcast also, I don't go because they are great or something. I just first see them. I just first see 2 3 sessions of them. If I really connect with them, I really go with them. That's how I also connected with you, right? I asked you for something, but I was sure that okay, there's something beyond it, because I need to prepare myself. Then I came up,
yeah,
okay, fine. Let me not wait his time. Let me not waste my time. Let me just improvise on myself. So that's where that respect will automatically come if you are more into, if you are wired into that mindset. That's for sure. Speaking of
yeah,
your
yeah.
PhD journey, right? It's a kind of a fascinating thing, because there are ways in which PhDs can also fail. Admits can
Yeah.
really fail sometimes. Yeah, some people might, okay, they might be thinking that okay, let me just try for thesis based MS, for a complete MS where I'll be paying money, or PhD. So how did you decide on going on for the PhD? And also I wanted to ask you, like, what was the process that took you inside the world of PhD? That means, like, what was the GRE score, what was the exams that you were supposed to take, and how many admits, how many rejects. So yeah.
Sure, sure. So, yeah, again, interesting journey. So, okay, let me just, yeah, make sure I recollect everything. Yeah. So sure. So yeah. So as I told, I think, I mean, definitely IISc is, I mean, it really makes you interested in research, even if you're not interested in research. So I was interested in research and I wanted to explore other, I mean, other research environments that are different from the Indian research environment, different from IISc. So I did apply to a lot of US universities. And also, since childhood, I mean, both of my parents are master's graduates. Like, none of them have PhDs, but still they are master degree holders, right? So I think that also, I mean, I think in my family as well, like, there are a lot of doctors, engineers, and so on. So yeah, I always have valued higher education since childhood. So in the back of my mind, I really knew I wanted to, like, do something immersive like a PhD. And in IISc, that got reinforced. And then so that's, I thought, yeah, this is the natural next step, and we'll see after that what happens. So So yeah, and I think my professors were quite supportive. They wrote strong letters, and I had a US internship. So I mean, the professor there also was a very great mentor. She also wrote an amazing letter. I believe. I mean, I didn't get to read the letter, but because you're not allowed to read your recommendation letters. But so yeah, so I got into so I knew that if I want this, like I have to go all in, right? So I had the KVPY scholarship and I had some other savings, right? So I just I just said, okay, I'm applying. I mean, as much as I can. So I said I chose 14 US universities. And again, my selection was sort of random because at that time I was not sure what sub area of physics I want to be in. And right, each university has its specialty. So that ties back to your previous point, like elitism, right? I mean, if you think Ivy, then okay, you have like 5 to 6 universities, but it's not about that, right? In a research lab, like you're working with a few people, you want to gel well. So maybe yeah, there are other places that are doing amazing work in that subfield of physics. So you have to make all those considerations, and I did to some extent, but not too much. So and so I applied, I made a list and I just applied, and I applied to a lot of universities that have very low acceptance rates. And I mean, examples are like Harvard, Caltech, and so on. And again, it was a big hit or miss. So yeah, I mean, and so there were like 7 to 8 universities like this. And then there were other schools that were good. I like my professors told they are good and I should apply for them. So I did apply for them. So overall, out of 14, and then I applied to a few in Europe, like 1 or 2 in Canada. I was also looking at India, like I mean, that was also my plan B. So I was looking at that, and yeah, luckily I got 4 admits. So I mean, my field was physics, right, or is physics. So UCLA, Boston University, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and Cornell University. So these were the 4 universities that offered me PhD admission. And yeah, I think then again, I was interested in condensed matter physics at that time, and so I said, okay, then among these four, maybe Cornell and UIUC are two options I can boil down to, and then I chose Cornell. And I think at that point, I like the diversity of Cornell because, I mean, while UIC is actually it actually ranks slightly higher than Cornell in specifically condensed matter physics. And still, I chose Cornell because I wanted that diversity, right? And I thought that the Cornell physics department is quite diverse in terms of the different number of topics, and also yeah, like this golden coin thing, right? I mean, I in the back of my mind I knew that I might change careers and I might need that golden coin, which is like that tag, right? And I mean, yeah, you should not do it too much, but I think that was one factor at the back of my mind. So yeah, and I knew I wanted to really finish a dissertation, like defend a PhD. So I went on, and in Cornell also, I mean, I wouldn't say my journey was like smooth. I mean, it is not. PhD is very difficult. So I did hop around, right? I mean, I tried one lab, I tried another lab, and then I mean, my current advisor is my third advisor. So yeah, so I have been through 2 divorces. I'm just kidding. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's how it worked out. And I think I have tried to diversify, like talk to people in different departments, try to write papers with them. So that has been my approach, and I think I've understood over time that I like to collaborate a lot. So you learn about yourself a lot in the PhD. And I think what else were you asking? Yeah, did I
The
miss?
exams that you were supposed to clear before entering
Yeah,
US for PhD.
yeah. So I think this is changing as far as I know, but in my time, GRE general, which is English and math, is very crucial. And so within GRE general, I think, again, speaking towards an Indian context, right? I think a typical Indian student will not have trouble with the math part. Like I mean, right? Typically, we are STEM applicants, so we have already had a lot of math. So you should aim for a full score in the math part, and in the English part. I think it's more about functional English, and it's tricky. Like for a lot of us, it is tricky. So that's some place you'll have to practice. And so yeah, I mean, out of 340, like in my time it was 340. I don't know what it is now. I would say I would say if you're looking for, I mean, let's say PhD programs in the top. I mean, again, top is a bad word, really. I mean, yeah, this elitism is
You can say that. You can
a lot
say
of
that.
pros
It's
and cons,
normal.
but yeah, like if you open, some ranking website, which again are very flawed. Like there are some, yeah, that's a different discussion. I mean, they count some weird things into their calculations, and which is just absurd. So, but anyways, like if you take a large enough pool, like 100 universities and so on, I would say target for a full score in math. So 170 out of 170. Speaking of my time, target around in English, like in the verbal part of GRE general, target. So out of 170, I would say 150 is 150 to 160 is decent. Like try to cross 155 as much as you can, or even 160 or even 170. Like I know people who scored 340 out of 340, right? I mean, so try to, I mean, go as far as possible, but 155, crossing 155 would be great, and 170 full score in math. So that's, yeah, that's a side remark about GRE. Then I'm from in physics. There is GRE physics as well, but I guess in engineering they don't have subject GRE. So in my case, I had to appear for a physics GRE. And again, I mean, I think, yeah, like at least in physics GRE, try to score full, right? I mean, I think if you go above 94 percentile, it's automatically a full score. So the scoring system is slightly different. But I mean, 990 out of 990, like in my time, that was okay, yeah, right? And so try to score at least that. And then other than that, yeah, those were the exams. Then TOEFL, yeah, I mean, that's standard. Focus on the speaking part, because I within TOEFL, I think the other three sections like reading, listening, writing, I guess, yeah, and then there is the speaking part, right? So the other three sections are okay, but in speaking, make sure you speak slowly, clearly, because I got a my speaking score was lower when compared to my other scores, and I don't think, yeah, I mean, I was surprised. So I think it was more about being clear and so on. So that's something else you should keep in mind. And again, some universities are relaxing these requirements because these exams are very expensive. And yeah, so yeah, that was about getting in. Then write a strong statement of purpose, get very good recommendation letters. And I think there again, it's a balance between the prestige of the professor and whether they are able to write a strong recommendation, right? So I had to make those choices. I mean, I knew of professors who were very prestigious, but at the same time, if they do not know me very well enough and they cannot really write in detail about my qualities as a prospective researcher or as a researcher, then I would refrain from taking their recommendation letters. And all in good spirit, right? I mean, my goal was to work with people who can really write strong letters for me. And I think so if you're applying to US universities, if an American professor can write a letter, that would be really good. If you're going to a European university, if a European professor can write a recommendation letter, that would be very good. And I think those things helped me. And really, like if I compare with my cohort, I feel I was quite lucky in the sense I had people with higher academic credentials in terms of like first author research papers in some of the top journals, right? Uh,
Citations.
and and yeah, so still, like I think these some other factors like this, the soft skill, the soft parts of your application, like having a strong recommendation letter, or a recommendation letter from a person who is close to the university you are applying to, or even from the university you are applying to. That would be like next level. But yeah, those things. So write a strong research statement as well. Try to describe why you are really passionate about the field of study. Also describe the professors you would like to work with, what subfields you are interested in within their labs. And in the US, the strategy is to pick like 3 4 advisors of interest. uh, but in Europe, you're applying to a specific advisor and you work with them, right? So in US, you have a few months or 1 year to just explore and find your research lab, which is not true in Europe. I mean, again, there are outliers in both places, but that's how it is. Yeah, that was the application process, I would say. And uh, yeah, I guess, I mean, be prepared to spend a lot of money. Yes, that's because
That's true.
USD too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but I
you
think
need to spend a lot of money for your, even if you are in PhD, even though you might be getting paid to some extent, there will be some expenses which come up all of the sudden. Let me just say, okay, you don't want to live in the university dorm room. You want to live somewhere. Probably taking a single house apartment is going to be like costlier, that's for sure. And also more of, you want to buy a book, it's costly there because it's in terms of dollars. So yeah, it's makes a lot of difference there.
I would say that is true for people who come to non-funded programs, like the non-funded MS you were talking about. And there, yeah, you have to take out huge educational loans within India. And I mean, there are schemes which I think nullify the interest rate almost. Like there's the JN Tata endowment, that's quite popular, and so on. Like it's an interest-free loan. But for PhD programs, you are typically funded and funded well enough. I mean, yeah, in most US universities I can think of. Again, I have to collect the statistics. Yeah, I don't want to be too anecdotal, but it seems to me at least, like at least the friends I know in US universities, even in Europe, the standard of living is quite good, and like you don't have to worry about expenses really. I think you will be able to even save some money. So yeah, I mean, it will be a lot of money to apply to the US, but at the same time you'll get back that money if you do a funded PhD. And even if you do a funded master's degree, you could work in the US for a few years and you'll get back. Yeah. So it comes back to you. Yeah. I mean, definitely, as long as you get a job or you are in a funded PhD, you'll have enough money. I mean, yeah, and typically you'll have savings, like a lot of savings, more
Yeah,
than
but
India.
typically person like me will love to spend a lot. You won't believe all my internship money which I got, I spent on the
Uh,
courses, I spent on attending webinars from the other people, I spent on actually buying some books. My house is filled with books.
okay.
To a person like me, I think probably US funding might not be that helpful because because I have lot of desires and lot of things to done, right?
No.
So that's where I told about that.
Yeah, but I think in general it's good, right? I think, I mean, yeah, it's, I mean, you spend some money to get in, and then you'll get back that money. So yeah, I mean, that works out. I just, yeah, but you're right, it varies from person to person. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
speaking of cultural shocks that you actually faced, right?
yeah.
I really want to emphasize on this because most of the people, as soon as they go, okay, there is an Indian embassy there, okay, that thing will be actually people have come to a mindset that okay, we will intend to meet a lot of Indians, so we will not get that amount of cultural shock. But like, what are some of the cultural shock that you actually experience in terms of professionalism, in terms of academia? Actually, basically academia, that's what I want to really focus on more.
Yeah, some of this information is confidential. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, when I came in, I mean, for example, yeah, I think I'll just keep speaking, right? I think the first thing is dinner time, right? 5 p.m. is dinner time, which is weird. I mean, yeah, nobody in India has dinner at 5 p.m. So, but again, like, I mean, comparing India versus the US, that's what I'm focusing on. Actually, US is good, I would say, in most places because there is a significant Indian student population here, and you'll find a lot of people you can connect with, you can hang out with, socialize, and all sorts of things. And I think interacting with the non-Indian people, you'll need some time. I mean, they are good, but still, right, there's a cultural difference and you have to adjust to it. So the accent, so on. I mean, in the universities they are all good because they're used to hearing a lot of international accents. But if you go, let's say, right, to get groceries and so on, so you'll have to be more patient, but it's manageable. Like, you have a lot of friends who help you. And I mean, things are very, I mean, very smooth here. Like a lot of things are quite smooth here. And yeah, in terms of cultural shocks, I would say, yeah, sometimes I feel that that I think because there is so much difference in our cultures, right? I mean, United States is quite diverse in terms of all the people who come here. It's amazing. But at the same time, yeah, if you are in a tricky situation, let's say with your advisor, or if you are in a yeah weird people situation, right? In those cases, I think the informal interactions that you can have in India would be harder to have here. And I experienced that problem. um, yeah when yeah, for example, right, you are changing your lab and so on. I think, I mean, you have to make sure your administration is happy, your professors are happy, right? You don't want to burn bridges. And it's harder, I found it harder to navigate here. But it's my personal experience, it might differ. And again, those are minor in the US, but they are major in Europe. I mean, again, European people are quite much more laid back than American people. Like, yeah, here, I mean, US academia is very intense, I would say. I would say not too intense, but more intense than Europe and in India. And because here, yeah, it's you really have to fight for grant money, and it's quite bad. So the situation, yeah, like the number of faculty jobs and so on, people, I mean, yeah, it's very hard to get a professorship in the US universities. And again, it's not that it's hard for everyone. I mean, if you work, fight hard enough, you will get it. But yeah, it's typically not easy. So yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, I think, I mean, those, so in Europe, yeah, in Europe, like your advisors will be laid back, but at the same time, you don't won't find enough Indian people because the Indian diaspora is smaller. I think it's growing. I have to check the statistics again, but yeah, like my friends in Europe complain about that. Because I mean, it's not that, and for them, language is another barrier, right? It takes time to become fluent in French or German or Spanish or Swedish. I mean, it takes time. So you have to take that into account, and you will feel lonely there because I mean there is not a sizable Indian diaspora there. It's like you can't get Indian food easily and so on. So, but those things are not true in the US. US has a sizable uh, population of Indian people. Yeah, and it's quite nicely spread around. Most university towns have a lot of Indians, so it's quite good.
No, Pranav, thank you so much for this eye-opening podcast, because most of the times when we see international students who are going from India, there are a lot of doubts and like what should be their actual approach when they are going to be there in for the PhD program or the funded or the non-funded programs which is offered by the universities. There are a lot of doubts. I think this has cleared most of their doubts. And thank you so much for such an amazing podcast, brother.
Yeah, no worries. And always, like, you could share my LinkedIn account with them, my LinkedIn profile, and yeah, they could reach me out on LinkedIn. I think that might be the easiest, maybe. Yeah, they could send me a connection request, like whoever is going to watch this video. Yeah, and I would be happy to connect you with more people, or offer specific advice. I think, yeah, and I think it ties back into really like making it easier in terms of information, like making sure everyone has the right kind of information to make sure they land in their career of interest and so on. So yeah, I'd love to help people in whichever way I can. Yeah,
Thank you
and
so
I
much.
mean, I'm actually moving to the industry. So that is, yeah, yeah, so it's going to be another interesting experience. So, which that tells me that tells you that I think, yeah, I mean, you can go in academia quite far. It's interesting, but it doesn't mean you have to lock yourself there, right? You have to, I mean, you can always explore and maybe even come back to academia and so on. So yeah, explore all sorts of options. And I think US is quite good in that sense. There are a lot of PhDs in the industry, which I'm not sure how true it is in other countries. Like in India, it's not true. They don't value PhDs in the industry that much. That's what I've seen. It might change, it might improve, definitely. But yeah, so those are some other things I could offer fine grain advice or connect you with the right people, like in case people have questions.